And this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pokonjre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah, 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 yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. It's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey. In diaspora. Current affairs. Reliable information. History. Ooh. Talking about culture. Politics. Education. Entertainment. Business. Sports. Advertisement, articulation, focus on Liberia, focus on Liberia, focus on Liberia, from Monday to Sunday, focus on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Roundtable Africa on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Roundtable Africa, we are focusing on the elections in Guinea held yesterday, where the president, the current head of state, people are saying you're going to win it all. Let me welcome our chief presenter here, Mr. Mohammed Sharif, the man I have known for almost 40 years. Mr. Sharif, welcome to the show.
Dennis, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's great to be here.
Thank you. Let me welcome the man who come close to being as well-rounded as I am, Mr. Jimmy Isbell. Mr. Jimmy, a diplomat, an engineer, and he came close to being well-rounded. Welcome, Jimmy.
Well, I do consider that high commentary, especially coming from you. I appreciate being here. There's so many things that go on in our little Africa that affect all of us. So if we can get it right, maybe we can affect the change.
If we get it right, we can affect the change. If we get it right in Guinea, if we get it right in Ivory Coast, if we can get it right in Liberia, if we can get it right in Ethiopia and Tanzania. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. A lot of things happening. Focus on Liberia. We devote time to talk about other African countries. Tonight, we're going to be focusing on Guinea, and they are having elections in that part of the world. Let's go around the room first. You know, the concept I always like for us to lay the premise about talk Roundtable Africa. Jimmy, this is Roundtable Africa, where we discuss not just Liberia as most of the other talk shows are used to, but want to take some time and dive into other African countries because we are all inextricably linked. Your take?
Yeah. Whether we realize it or not, what goes on in our neighboring countries eventually affect all of us. If there was a outbreak, unrest in Guinea tomorrow, many of them, the citizens will flow to Liberia. And we've seen in our own history where neighboring countries supported rebel activities. In fact, the 1990 invasion was launched from Ivory Coast. So we have to pay attention to what goes on in the region. so that we won't be adversely affected. That if we can intervene to make the situation better for all of us in the long run, we should. And lastly, we have to realize that we will be better if we could synchronize our activities, put our skills and efforts together, and become a one united entity. Will be much more powerful than any other nation on earth. So it behooves us, yes, to know what's going on with our neighbors and see how we can gel into our formidable body.
Thank you. And talking about knowing about what goes on, with our neighbors. In fact, our president have a brilliant idea of constructing the Mano River Unit Center, so that whatever goes around, we are able to be the shock absorber. I was talking to Mr. Sharif the other day, and he said, "Hey, the villa you see in Foya, Mobutu Sese Seko did the same thing." So, and my question to you, Mr. Sharif, is, if we are all the same, so it pays for us to know what goes on in other countries so that we can learn. What do you think?
Yeah, it's we are linked, inextricably linked to other countries in the region. In fact, were it not for colonial boundaries, Western colonial demarcations, these are people of the same background. So you have the Kisis, for example, in Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone. You have the Mandingos, my people, everywhere in that region, from Ghana to Mauritania to Liberia to Guinea to Ivory Coast to Burkina Faso to Gambia. So you have, this sort of tribal ethnic connections all over the place. So I can go down the list of different groups that can be found in Liberia, Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea, et cetera, et cetera. So what affects, as Jimmy rightly put it, what affects one region or one country uh, directly or indirectly affects the other part. We are like the same, we're like parts of the same body, if you will. So Liberia is no different from Guinea or Sierra Leone or Cote d'Ivoire or any other countries in the region. And so it is important for us to study, to analyze what goes on in other countries so that we understand the issues. For one thing, is for the purpose of learning, for the purpose of understanding, and for policymakers to keep an eye on these things, to draw the right conclusion in terms of what they can do. You talk about the Mano River Union. The Mano River Union is a composition of Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, and that have been existing for several decades now. So I've heard that there is a Mano River Union Center, and our discussion, and I told you that such a thing is not strange in Africa. You have African leaders who build, establish, who build these kinds of uh, centers, institutions in their villages. They develop their own localities. Mobutu Sese Seko, the late president of Zaire, formerly Zaire, now Congo, built an international airport at Badalite in the jungles, if you will, of Congo. He built a conference center. So instead of hosting conferences in Kinshasa, the capital, conferences were going to Badalite. Badalite had some factories, breweries, different things of that nature. But what it was, Badalite was it was just, these were just makeshift creations, because the moment Mobutu fell, everything else fell apart. So Mr. Boaka has to learn a lesson. If I'm working for the executive mansion as the executive mansion historian, I will draw the president's attention to these kinds of developments. So instead of this, you want to turn this into a bridge to, somewhere in Kipama, somewhere in Sino County, in Grand Gita County, Nimba County, places like that have, certain villages that have no bridges, that have no schools. You want to turn this kind of development into that. I don't know the utility of this kind of center. I really don't.
Thank you. Well, we want thanks to those of you who joined us, Mohammed, Isaac, David, and the rest of you watching us. Thank you so much for joining. Please do us that favor. Share the show, invite others to come and drink from the fountain of knowledge. Mr. Sharif, let's set the stage here. We're talking about elections in Guinea. For those who may not know exactly, who may have not followed the event closely, how will you describe the significance of this 2025 election in Guinea's political history? Set the stage. Doumbouya, the current president, is running. Give us the backdrop.
The current president is a young man in his early 40s, if I'm not mistaken. He owed his rise to former President Alpha Conde. Doumbouya was a member. He was born, I believe, he was born in 1984. So, a very young man. Doumbouya traveled to Europe, Netherlands, and then France. He joined the French military, returned home at some point. Some people, some Guineans say at the request of Alpha Conde. And Doumbouya, among other things, Doumbouya managed to quickly rise into the ranks of the Guinean military. And he was named the commander of the special forces. And, President Alpha Conde created a group of elite military individuals called the special forces, and these guys were well trained, well equipped. So Doumbouya came to public attention in 2018 during the Guinea Independence Day parade. Doumbouya is a very charismatic young man. As you can see, he has the physique and the training as well. He has he trained in many places. He has served in many places around the world. And so he really came to Guinean attention and attention of the region and many parts of the world with his
surrounded by armed troops and
during that parade. And after that, the president himself, Alpha Conde, said of Doumbouya, he said when he appeared that day, there was a lot of people, including women, who fell in love with Doumbouya. But unfortunately for you all, he's already married. The president said this during an interview. So everybody, the kind of person he is, very charismatic man. I don't know, it might be 6'7", 6'8", probably. And so that's how he came to international attention. And so 2 years later, Guinea held a presidential election, and Alpha Conde went for a third term, but Alpha Conde reset himself to borrow from Sekou. They're resetting themselves. So Alpha Conde reset himself. He went for a third term, and there was tremendous outcry. And after this election, Guinea was near the catastrophe and chaos, and Doumbouya used this as a pretext to overthrow Alpha Conde and install himself as the new leader, the military leader of Guinea. And he established a transitional administration. Doumbouya announced that he's not going to run, and no member of his military junta was going to run for office after the transition was over. But a few years later, Doumbouya had a change of heart. He organized a constitutional conference and a referendum. And in the referendum was approved by 90% of the voters. And in that referendum, it was agreed that the military can run for office. In that referendum, the term of office was moved from 5 years to 7 years. That is important because Doumbouya is a young man. He would like to serve for a little bit more time. So if you 7 plus 7 is 14, right? That's the math, and you add 14 years to his maybe 42, 44 years, he will still be a young man. He will still be in very good shape uh, by the time he leaves office, if he does decide to serve 2 term of office. At this point in time, Doumbouya has cleared the field, and members of the opposition, the main opposition candidate is Silu Dalin Jallo of the UFDG party, and he is currently residing in exile because there's an investigation going on, and he was linked to some corruption. And he has fled the country. He's been living in Senegal and France. Other opposition figures have also fled the country. Most of the opposition leaders who were to pose him any sort of major challenges are now currently residing in exile, and that leaves Doumbouya with, uh, token opposition, as many would say. And there's a whole host of candidates right now. There were a whole host of candidates that contested the election. 9 candidates contested the election, including Doumbouya. Many observers believe that those candidates were basically token candidates. Those candidates were not seriously vetted. Those candidates were really sort of like supporters of Doumbouya incognito. And so it is believed that it is not, they don't pose any serious challenge to Doumbouya. Hence, Doumbouya is going to win this election hands down. All that being said, many in Guinea supporters, especially supporters of Doumbouya, are praising his leadership, his ability to make quick decisions, and some developments are going on in Guinea. Doumbouya has been able to open the iron ore mines to the Chinese company that's investing in Guinea now. So there's tremendous development going on under the administration of Doumbouya. Finally, Doumbouya has not been seen on the campaign trail, and Doumbouya's ministers are the ones who are campaigning with his placards and all these different things of that nature. And so he himself, meanwhile, has not been seen on the campaign trail, and because this is already a foregone conclusion. It is believed, widely believed, that Doumbouya is going to win this election hands down.
Thank you. Jimmy, Mr. Sherry talked about 2 things I want to highlight. The constitutional changes in 2025, Guinea approved a new constitution in a referendum that allowed the military leader to stand for election and extend presidential term from 5 to 7 years. We also see that former President Alpha Conde and his longtime opposition Selu Jallo is still in exile, plus others, right? Those 2 things alone, how familiar?
Yes, they are very familiar, right? Having chasing your opposition out of the country. We see that happen just the other day in Tanzania, where there was no opposition. Pretty, and the woman, how much percentage was it? About 80 or 90% of the
Yeah,
vote.
somewhere around. Yes, about 90%.
So the question, it begs the question: where is the trajectory for Guinea when we look at these things happening? Okay, are they going to join the Sahel region? Because there's something going on and very interesting going on in the Sahel, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. Is it going to take that trajectory and become one of those types of state? Or will it land where there's a more managed democracy? Where they hold an election, a actual competitive election. This particular election, it looks like it's more for legitimacy. I don't know if Mohammed will agree with me, because it doesn't look like you said, that there was no opposition, formidable opposition. So the only reason why they're going through this election is to claim legitimacy. It's a facade. It's not actual politics. So we wonder, are they going to simply be a civilian facade where the military simply changes clothes from military clothes to suits? Or is it actually going to eventually split, where we see different factions emerging. But when we look at the Guinea military, they seem like a pretty solid groups. They don't look splintered, so we don't see fragmentation happening. But what we do notice is that it may just convert to become a member of the Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso axis, and that. But at the moment, they're not threatening. They're not anti-West. But that is something I know the pundits are asking themselves right now.
Mhm.
Are we going to see Guinea lean toward that Sahel axis? Are they going to become part of it? If they should become part, because these are all French speaking
Mhm.
and they're all part of the Sahel. So it looks opportune for Guinea, known for their military capability, to become one. But so we're watching to see. I'm sure if Sekou Touré was alive, he'd have jumped in it by now. Almost sure.
Guinea has always been unique, but we'll see when we get to it. But with the election now, yesterday we all saying the current president is poised to win, even though he's not there. What is causing it? Are the people afraid? Are they just acquiesced? Because we'll always see supporters who will say, "Yes, this is good thing." But what is the mood in Guinea? What are people saying? And I was even
Yeah.
before that I was showing some video of what's going on there. But what is it like now in Guinea when it comes to how the people are responding to this?
Yeah.
This
So
is
what is going on is, despite his military credentials, it seemed that Doumbouya has a groundswell of support among the Guinean people. I mean, his ethnic group is one of the largest ethnic groups in Liberia. The Mandingo ethnic, if you collectively put all Mandingos together under the umbrella, is one of the largest ethnic groups in Guinea, occupy most of Upper Guinea to the southeastern portion of Guinea, and so he has that population advantage. Jimmy mentioned the Fulani ethnic group also. I mean, it's one of the largest, if not the largest, in Guinea. You have the Susu. So he's able to garner the support of the Mandingo people, or the Mandingo people of Guinea. And he's able also to create a sort of coalition with the Susus because of his alliance with former President Lansana Conte. He has made sure that he honored, instead of perhaps engaging in some sort of investigation of the Conte regime for some of the excesses. What Doumbouya has done, he has closely allied himself with Lansana, honor, in fact, Lansana Conte's services to the Guinean state. He has also closely allied himself with the Sekou Touré element of Guinean politics. Sekou Touré is a very popular, the father of Guinea's independence, is very popular with the Guinean masses because of his anti-colonialist stance and because of his pan-Africanist resume. Sekou Touré is very popular, and what Doumbouya has done, he's been able to ally himself with elements, with the community people who are supporting Sekou Touré. In fact, when Doumbouya took office a couple of years ago or so, he returned property seized from Sekou Touré's family to Sekou Touré's wife. Sekou Touré's widow is still alive, and Doumbouya was able to return their properties that Conte seized during the military coup of 1984. And Doumbouya has made some overtures to supporters of different, to elements of different ethnic groups. And so he has been able to somehow coalesce different, ethnic groups and different persuasions around his cause, around his political cause because he knew exactly what he was doing. So for 3 years, he has been preparing himself for this moment. And, the fact that he has done that, he was not satisfied. He had to clear the field. Clearing the field means that he wasn't taking any chances with people like Selu Dalin Jallo of the opposition UFDG party. He wasn't taking chances with Kuyate, another prominent opposition leader, Sidia Toure, another opposition member, opposition leader. He wasn't taking any chances with those guys. He launched investigations against a lot of these individuals, and they were summoned to return to Guinea and face the music. But some of these guys decided to stay away, and not to come in, not to return while Doumbouya is in office. So he has done a lot of different things, clearing the field this way. He has also been able to suppress protesters, so that a lot of protesters are protesters are really in jail. Some have disappeared with no news of them, and so he has done a lot of different things to be able to consolidate power, to be able to stand now as the most vibrant candidate in this particular election. In this election, there are 8 other candidates, and there are 9 candidates, including Doumbouya. You have candidates like Makele Kamara, you have Abdoulaye Bade, Abdoulaye Bade, you have Faya Minimono. So he has an assortment of candidates. Faya Minimono is a Kisi from the southeast of Guinea, and so Bade is a Fula, from the Fula ethnic group. So what he has done, Doumbouya, is to allow these candidates from different ethnic groups to participate, even though they are token candidates, but he has allowed them to participate. And some analysts have even said that these candidates have already been bought and put on the scene to create the facade, as Jimmy said, of a multi-party election, of a free and fair process. But this is what he's doing. This is what he has been able to do, Dennis. And so it is, I believe now, that the way is clear, immensely clear for him that he is going to be elected. One thing I'm going to land on now is that before this election, Doumbouya traveled to Gabon, where he met President Brice Oligui Nguema. After the inauguration, Oligui gave a torch to Doumbouya and said, "This is your torch. It's your moment now. This is your moment," meaning that I have done my part. I came to office in the military coup, and here am I now. I have been elected. So he passed the torch to Doumbouya, and Doumbouya foreign minister held this torch, and they walked around with this torch. And so when he returned home, this was the talk of the city, that Brice Oligui Nguema has passed the torch to Mamadi Doumbouya to be the next president of Guinea.
To transform from a military leader to an elected one.
To transform, because Oligui Nguema did the same thing. So basically, Oligui Nguema was saying, "Look, this is what I did. You can do what I do, and be in the same position I'm in now."
And Jimmy, you were talking about Doumbouya joining Mali and the rest against France. Your friend Sam Wallo, who you highly respect and recommend as the next city mayor of Monrovia, he said, Doumbouya is married to a French citizen. So it's unlikely that he will be taking that route. And, I was talking about the uniqueness of Guinea. Even when other Francophone countries were going one way, Guinea has always, look at things differently.
That is a good observation by Sam Wallo. I wasn't aware that he was married to a French citizen who is also a cop.
Right.
That would definitely bear some influence on him. We've seen this several times where that the head of state is married to some foreign person, and these people have untold influence over them. If we look at Jordan today with King Abdallah, right? I think he's married to an American, And you can see how Jordan is of all those Arab states, they're more pro-US than anything else. Well, his wife is an American. So you see how that has influence over you. So I think Sam Waller was bringing up a strong point here, a very strong point.
Yeah.
But for his initially, he was credited for, like Muhammad said, launching these major mining projects. But we know, we have been, there's the call, they said that the curse of resources. That is, we have not been very good at making our resources benefit us, especially the extractive industries. We see 70, 80, 90% of it going outside. There were some claims that France benefited billions from Niger's uranium and deposits and other mineral deposits. Billions. I mean, in the tune of billions. In other words, they were, maybe if they were getting about 2,000 per kiloton, France was selling it at 200,000. Can you imagine? So we have not been good at. So the fact that he's opening these mines is not significant, a good enough sign that he's going to bring it around. And then he was popular before because he said he was going to return the country to democracy rule. But we've seen recently, by just what Sharif was saying, sidelining these important political opposition, it looks like a power grab.
Yeah, but can you see that there is a, some people try to look at him like Ibrahim Traore from Burkina Faso. It's like they have, they're young, charismatic and all that. So,
but he's not anti-West. He's not anti-West. Good point you brought up. That's why I was hoping, but with having a French national as his wife in the house with him, okay, he's not anti-West. And these countries, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, are very, very anti-West. They've tired being exploited. But he, even though he's opened it up to China, I understand he's also opening up to HPX. That's supposed to be mining through Liberia. So where will he actually land? Where will Guinea land? It's a big question mark.
Let's listen to what the reporters are saying about the election.
Guineans are set to vote on Sunday in an election intended to mark the end of a transition back to civilian rule. Despite repeated promises to hand back power to civilians, General Mamadi Doumbouya looks set to consolidate his grip. In the capital Conakry, Doumbouya's entourage lead his political campaigns, rallying crowds to vote for the army leader.
This will not be an ordinary election. It is a referendum on the future of our country. Either we continue rebuilding the process under the leadership of President Mamadi Doumbouya, or we return our country to the era of impunity and pre-nationhood.
In September, Doumbouya, a former Special Forces commander said to be in his early 40s, changed the constitution to allow the coup leader to run for office. Since then, he has campaigned on economic and mineral reforms and infrastructure achievements, including the launch of a massive iron ore mining project, and some voters have expressed confidence in his leadership.
He is a man I trust. People say all sorts of things about him, but he is capable of making a choice later on. The Doumbouya I see today is able to select and give power to someone he trusts, someone who can manage the country.
Residents in Conakry said the campaign period had proceeded peacefully, a contrast to past elections marked by violence.
The way politics was done before and now is different. We no longer have violent campaigns. There is interest. Everyone expresses their opinions without violence. The reasons that led to the violence before no longer exist. I'm sure things will work out.
However, Dambuya's critics are many. Civil society groups accuse his government of turning a blind eye to the constitution and openly banning protests, curbing press freedom and restricting opposition activity. His main challenger is opposition candidate Mohamed Sherif Tunkara, but prominent opposition figures Salou Dalein Diallo and former President Alpha Conde were barred from adding their list to the ballot sheet. Experts say it's a massive risk that could backfire. For effective political leadership, they believe Dambuya needs to include his rivals in the political process if he's to be.
All right. So, one thing is African the people, the citizens. It appears that people are weary of do nothing leaders. So if someone comes to power and doing something to move the needle, they can excuse other, democratic or abuses and say, well, at least this is better. At least we've not seen this before. At least so this at least mentality is because the predecessors were not doing well.
Right.
Mr. Sharif, because like Dumuya, I don't think Guineans believe, besides the tribal faction, but people are not looking at him like a saint. Even Traore, it's not like he's doing everything well, but they say at least he's moving the needle. Even if we go to the one most people praise, the Paul Kagame, not that at least respect democracy, but our country is developing. We have clean water, we have XYZ. To what extent is this playing now, people abusing power and just giving people life, and that will make them to excuse all other transgressions?
Yeah, you heard the citizens in the street talking, echoing these same sentiments that people are saying now that at least he's able to do this. At least he's able to give us electricity. He's able to give us roads. He's able to build a bridge over here, a bridge over there. He's able to build this hospital for us. After 50 years, this wasn't there, and this is there now. And so people use this to excuse other excesses, such as, disappearances and different things of that nature, clamping down on political protests. If you give the people hospital, they can excuse those kinds of bad habits for some time. How long they can excuse these bad habits, it remains to be seen. But for now, they will look the other way because of everything that you are giving them at that time. And that's the thing about government. Government should respond to the needs of the people, in real time, because real lives depend on them. So you're not waiting for tomorrow. You're not waiting for day after tomorrow. You are making things happen now. And I think that in the last 3 years, because of the fact that he has been preparing himself to enter the race as a civilian candidate, he's been doing things that, responding to the needs of the people, in certain localities for the most part. And so people are responding to that. So even though he has cleared the field, as I maintain, however, he still has the level of support in Guinea at this time. And then, the fact that he's a young man, you heard another, citizen in the street that saying that, he believes that, Doumbouya is able to pass the torch to somebody, meaning that, this guy is not old, at some point, he can give up the torch. All of that remains to be seen. But these are the things that are in his favor. And I believe he understands these things. I want to go back to something that Jimmy said, the Guinean economy, it's most at this point now is heavily export based, exporting, iron ore and bauxite. So you want to draw a fine line between, making sure that you're manufacturing, some of these things, like what they're doing in Burkina Faso. I mean, Guinea is far richer than most of the countries in the region. But if you're going to just depend on export, exporting all of these materials, then the long-term future, it's not good. So that is something that the Guineans, need to study and, make sure that you're not solely dependent on that and taking all your resources out. Otherwise, you're going to have the situation that we have, with the Bummy Hills, the Lamco and whatnot. And I don't know why they're not using Liberia as a lesson. I don't understand that you're giving up, this massive mines to foreigners to export. No, Sekou Toure was someone who preserved these resources. He did not allow, people, foreigners to come in and exploit these resources. So he kept them for a reason, for the future of his country. And one of the things that Sekou Toure was able to do was that in all of the major regions, there were factories. There were shoes factories. There was factories for everything, juice factory, this factory, that factory. All over Guinea, there were factories that Sekou Toure was able to build. And after the military coup, of course, the military got rid of a lot of that.
I'd like to add something, though.
Jimmy, before I want to add another layer to it, because
Okay.
one thing, if the people are determined that at least this person is doing this, so if you want to win election, you can sell the whole country, right? Because the citizens are looking at the at least factor. So no matter what you sell, because they were not having it before, so people will become short-sighted because they're not used to it. Right now, in my hometown, Dodokan, where even the school that we used to be so proud of is almost not there. So the little that you do, regardless of how you get it, they wouldn't care. Jimmy, the layer I want to add to it is the way the West responds to what we do in Africa. So sometimes it emboldens the leaders to be somehow dictatorial to accomplish something. Because if you listen to the reporter there, he said Dumuya changed the constitution, right? She did not reference the referendum, no matter how, like, they have no respect. People have no respect for the democracy that we practice. They will say the president changed it, right? And because of that, sometimes African leaders, they say, hey, you see, they don't like us. So let's do it our way because they are imperialists. And so the wrong under that so has to, uh, uh, even though they are not doing the right thing by their people, but the enemy of my enemy is my enemy.
Okay, so I agree with you that they're giving him a chance. He is still early in the game, so they're giving him leeway. So let's see what he does. So now, but we have identified that all these extractive industries and all these other resources, if you do not create, like Emmanuel Jackson is saying, if you do not create the institutions that will produce the kind of capacity you need, it will not go anywhere. You have to transform that economy to a productive economy, and you have to do that through institutions. So now his ability to create and build these institutions is going to come to task. I think what Guinea benefits from, if you know the Mali Empire, the Songhai Empire, the Ghana Empire, all these empires were part of this region. I think I was just reading the other day about Samori Touré, who was just recently the most anti force against the French in the late 1900s. He was the last to resistance to the French at the time. So we know these people are merchant. The Fula group, they're one of the most powerful nomadic merchants in Africa. If they can tap into these natural abilities and allow these people to transform their economy to a productive economy, then we might see something happening. But if he suppresses the people to maintain power, well, a lot of times these insecure leaders do. They have a tendency of of suppressing opposition instead of allowing the opposition to refine your processes and inspire greater things, they suppress the opposition. So Guinea, like Muhammad said, has a lot. They have a whole lot, but they're not just resource, but capacity as well. They got people. They have a history of being very mercantile. But is he going to know how to nourish that those resources and allow them to flourish, or will he become that person so want to maintain power that he suppresses the good in the nation after all?
And Jimmy, would that matter? Or would the people
Yes,
love me anyway?
the people love you for a certain amount of time. You can remember Samia Kayando? I can remember Samia Kayando. Let's bring it back home. I was there when Samia Kayando first went to LU campus, and he was so cheered. We walked and we escorted him back to the mansion. He walked to the campus and we walked with him back. He was so loved, but he quickly gained unpopularity. Why? Because again, to maintain power, his methods were draconian. He started killing off all his co-conspirators. He started quelling opposition. He sent soldiers to LU campus where women got raped and everything. He became very, very unpopular. The last and worst thing he did, he threatened a whole county, Nimba, where the Manos and Gils were, and said, if you don't get out of the county, you will not survive. This what caused all those rebels, all those people to become rebels and to go across the border and invade Liberia. So it is really up to him how he navigates the power that he's given. If he's going to use the same bully techniques where you simply suppress people, then he will become unpopular quick. But if he knows how to encourage and build institution and encourage differences so that they can flourish, he might have something going here. I don't know if he has that acuity. That requires a certain talent and an ability. We've got yet to see it.
If I may come in there, Jimmy, for a second. So what Doumbouya has been able to do, and then is directly to your question, is that he has been able to bite and blow. So there was maybe about 10 years ago or more, there was a stadium, a massacre at the Guinean National Soccer Stadium, the September the 28th soccer stadium in the heart of Conakry, where dozens and dozens, estimates put the number at over 100 civilians were massacred by the military under Dadis Camara, who was the military leader at the time. So what Doumbouya did was he called for, and when he came into office, so he organized a trial of these guys. So he tried the former president, who was brought back from Burkina Faso. Dadis Camara was tried, and his accomplices were tried and found guilty. So these guys were locked up. So to the human rights community, this was a great day. This was a victory for human rights under a military junta. But then a little later, coming towards the referendum, Doumbouya then goes ahead and freed Dadis Camara and promised to pay reparation to the victims of the September 28th massacre. Many believe that Doumbouya engaged in this because of the support of people in southeastern Guinea, especially the Pele ethnic group of southeastern Guinea, who are very, and Dennis, where we lived, in that region, Zerikori and all the surroundings. this is a big, massive population area, and mostly Pele people who support very critical in that area. So many believe that he did that to appeal to the voters in that region. And I think it's going to pay off for him by doing such a thing. And one of the things he has done is he has shown empathy. He's shown empathy. There was a time that some Guineans were returned from Tunisia somewhere when people in Tunisia were mistreating the African the black African population. I think it was from Tunisia, one of these places. So he himself went to the airport and met these people, these Guineans that returned home, and you could see that he embraced them, and he really empathized with them. So I think that some of these things, these intangibles they may be, will pay off in the end. But like Jimmy said, how long? It remains to be seen. So if you continue to do those things, if you continue to improve the well-being of the people, if you continue to create jobs, which is the reason why the Simandu project is the centerpiece of its economic platform. If you can continue to do that and create the manufacturing base to go with it, to make sure that the Guinean youth, instead of going abroad, are staying home to find jobs and stuff like that, he could enjoy his presidency. But again, all of these things remain to be seen.
And talking about these things, bite and blow. I like how you said it, because he's doing some they can be very dictatorial. Like Evans is mentioning here, the guy who was taken from Liberia, they kind of muzzle their way in Liberia, grab someone and say, but it's like we've come to a place in our history now, in our political history, that even if people are dictatorial, like we saw in Ghana, people continue to praise Jerry Rawlings, even though he killed people, right? They say, well, if you are doing it, for good, if you can even kill people,
right,
like what Kagame is doing, people, turn the other way,
right,
because they want to see something that they have not seen for some time. This is dangerous.
It's dangerous. And in the political process, what some have concluded is that in the process of sanitizing the state, there are sacrifices to be made. So you mentioned Jerry Rawlings. I mean, there were individuals who connived with the Western imperialists to remove Kwame Nkrumah in 1966, and these traitors damaged the Ghanaian state, and by that means there was already when Jerry Rawlings came in. I mean, there was a succession of military leaders but before Jerry Rawlings came in. So when Jerry Rawlings came in, it was a cleansing. It was an act of cleansing the Ghanaian state of all of these individuals who have damaged, the state. And so once he did that, and he didn't have to stop there. So he didn't stop there. How he stopped there, he would have been another Samuel Doe. So he didn't stop there. So what he did was lay the foundation for what Ghana is today. That's why Jerry Rawlings is forgiven for those excesses. People talk about them, but the moment you talk about that, then the next sentence, so it's like, the subject and predicate. You talk about it, but then the next sentence says, Jerry Rawlings was able to do X, Y, and Z, and this is the reason why we enjoy the democracy that we enjoy in Ghana. And so,
that's a good point.
You
Because
have to...
Has Samuel Doe done the same thing? Has Charles Taylor done the same thing?
Correct.
We wouldn't be talking what we're talking today.
Listen, Charles Taylor, all he had to do, the bar was so low for him. All he had to do, sit there and govern his country. Forget about governing the region. Forget about Sierra Leone. Forget about Guinea. I was in southern Guinea. I was in Bala, right at the border with Liberia, right before Ganta. When Taylor would send insurgents to attack those places along the region, there was a time that people went into the refugee camp and shot up the entire place all night long in Guinea. So for several years, he continued to do this to provoke Lansana Conte, who was already a military leader, who was already, not happy with some of the things that Taylor was doing. So for him, the bar was low. Just govern your country, forget about, the opposite, killing people like Doki and others, just govern. That was his mission. Though was, after you kill all these people, now what? What are you going to do for the students, for education? What are you going to do about roads? What are you going to do about food production? All these different things of that nature. He couldn't do that. They couldn't put all of this together. And so the result was catastrophic for Liberia. And meanwhile, for Ghana, it was a different story. So it's a lesson to be learned from all of these, different scenarios that you're putting out here. So it's an excellent question, Dennis.
Yeah, you got to be a visionary and have the ingenuity to do it. And if you don't have the ingenuity, you need the charisma to bring on people who will help you do it. But if you have none of those things and you're just depending on maintaining power by any means possible, then we will see the typical dictators that we see all throughout Africa who end up doing nothing. It requires a vision. It requires, and it's not easy. It requires perspicacity. You have to know how to do these things. It's not easy to do. If it was so easy to do, they would have done it. You have to know how to build institutions. You have to know how to revamp the economy so that it takes off. You have to know how to ingratiate yourself to neighbors and strike good deals that will benefit your country, not these extractive deals that they take 90% and leave you with 10%. You have to know how to do these things. And they don't think on that. They only think on, okay, I got power, and now I'm going to consolidate power. But how to do all these things that will move my country forward, I don't know how to do it. So what's going to happen in the end?
And talking about knowing how to do these things, we have people at Focus on Liberia headed by the well-rounded who know how to do these things, who know how to bring these things to the people. So keep watching Focus on Liberia for all the best.
You look young and slim there, Dennis.
There you go.
There was some touch by AI.
We can see that. Well, I want to ask Mohammed one thing. Mohammed, this Kamara guy who was responsible for that massacre at the stadium, who ended up, I think he fled to Ivory Coast or something like that.
Burkina Faso.
Where? Burkina Faso? Mm-hmm. Okay. And later on, there was a trial after him, and they were convicted. I think he was sentenced to 20 years and some indemnity he had to pay. But then Doumbouya pardoned him due to health reasons. Now, how does that sit with people? That he issued a pardon for somebody who viciously killed innocent protesters.
The people in the capital of Conakry. So when you talk about how they sit with people, so you have to put it into segments. So you have victims, or families of the victims. They're not happy with all of that. You have the human rights community. They're not happy with all of that. But when you move out of the capital of Conakry, when you go to southern Guinea, among the Pele people, you cross Masanta, or perhaps in Masanta, the Loma people, but you go to southern Guinea among the Pele people. Dadis Kamara is very popular in southern Guinea, where he's from. He's from a place not far from Zerikwe, where Dennis and I used to live. He's very popular, immensely popular in that region. So his incarceration was not, they weren't happy about it. And so when he was pardoned and released, it was, a big relief for them, because they see him as their hero. For the first time in the history of the country, a Pele person has never been a president of Guinea. So this was the first person. Although, there's this sort of ethnic cohesion because, the prime minister under Sekou Touré was a Loma man from the Masanta area. So, there's always been this ethnic cohesion. But as far as, rising to the level of a head of state, I think Dadis Camara was the first person from that region. And once he got into office, he brought on a lot of the people in the security forces were, guys from Zeriko, his ethnic group. So he bolstered the security, and he was doing a lot of things for them. So they saw him as the embodiment of their hopes and aspirations for, a successful life, so to speak. They're part of the nation, and this is their man. Everybody wants their person up there. So he was that person for them. So his release meant a whole lot to them. But for the rest of the country, people didn't take that well. But what Doumbouya then follow up to say was, okay, we're going to pay reparation to, the victims. Please forgive them. We're going to pay reparation. I don't know if that reparation has been paid. I have no news of it. There has been no news, since then that any reparation was paid.
Yeah, and Mr. Sharif, if you remember when we were there was tension between the Mandingo and the Pellas, right?
Yes, yes.
That, regular people enter house to house killing people with no government. So with that tension, Doumbouya being Mandingo and then Pele, so doing this kind of overture will kind of ease that tension and bring about some form of collaboration.
It certainly will help. It certainly will help. Because again, there is this sort of cleavage, if you will, between these different ethnic groups, although it's not too pronounced when you talk about Guinea, because there's this sort of especially during the days of Sekou Touré, it was about ideology, the ideology of African liberation, the ideology of the African man and woman standing up for his or her rights. So that was Sekou Touré bringing everybody together. So it wasn't about religion. It wasn't about you a Muslim or you a Christian or you a this and that and the other. It was about the African people against, intruders, against these people who have colonized us. So you see a semblance of that still in Guinea decades after Sekou Touré's death. So this is the reason why, even though you have all these you have ethnic tensions as we have in Liberia, but in Guinea it's not very pronounced. But Dennis, the point that Dennis is making is we've seen time and time and again where there have been ethnic clashes in especially in the Zeriko region between Pellas and Mandingos, and there have been death, and destruction of property between the ethnic groups, and so the fact that Doumbouya did this, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to at all.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Roundtable Africa. We are discussing Guinea. It's elections in Guinea, which are the current president Doumbouya is poised to win. Let's look at West Africa. What's the reaction been, after we saw this sort of failed coup? When it comes to Guinea, it's like whatever Traore does is okay. When it comes to Ivory Coast, whatever Ouattara does is okay. West Africa is not going to do anything. So what's the news about how even though the results have not been announced, but how is it playing out in the sub-region, including Liberia?
ECOWAS sent a large large groups of monitors to Guinea to witness to monitor the election, and they have played softly to put it in our lingua franca, softly with Guinea, and they're not, or our jargons. They're not. They've talked about sanctions. So at first, after the military takeover, they imposed military sanction and they imposed sanction on the Guinean military. They imposed some sort of economic sanction on Guinea. Most of that have dissipated now. that Doumbouya was on the track to returning the country to civilian rule. What many people did not suspect at first, because he announced, when those sanctions were imposed, Doumbouya announced that he was not running, and none of his no member of his military junta would have been running. But a little later, he had a change. When he had a change of heart, ECOWAS was very wary at this point. At the time that Doumbouya had a change of heart, ECOWAS was already losing 3 member states. They lost Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali. And instead of asking Mali and Burkina Faso and Niger to reform, ECOWAS was even begging them to come back. And ECOWAS had dropped the condition for the return to civil rule in Niger. Because keep in mind, ECOWAS had threatened to invade Niger. And if Niger was not returned to civilian rule, if President Mohamed Yusufu was not returned to power. At this time, the former president of Niger is still locked up. He's still, under some kind of house arrest. At least he has not been released. And ECOWAS has dropped their demands for the release of the former president of Niger. And what they've tried to do, and I think they're still trying to do, is to reconcile with the Sahel states, those 3 states, so that they can come back into the fold of ECOWAS. And meanwhile, the Sahel states are saying that, it's water under the bridge already. So they're not ready to come back. So when it comes to Guinea, they were very careful in terms of, not trying to lose a powerful member of the community, because in case of a military intervention into any other undemocratic state, Guinea is a vital contributor. The Guinean army is very strong. I mean, they have, all the, the weaponry and different things of that nature. They have a very trained military, a very powerful military that can help ECOWAS in its attempt to maybe restore democracy elsewhere. So maybe what they're trying to do is to work with Doumbouya, to give him this democratic credential that he is seeking. I think ECOWAS is not going to go the route of saying, well, we're going to delegitimize this process.
Oh, but didn't they suspend Guinea in 2021 after the coup?
They lifted some of the sanctions. They lifted some of the restrictions on Guinea, and they haven't even been talking about Guinea anymore about what they needed to do, because at that point, they had to deal with Mali. They had their hands full with Burkina Faso. They had their hands full with Niger, and those 3 countries were gone. So they're trying to get those countries back. They weren't trying to aggravate the situation to add a 4th country, because Doumbouya was almost leaning in that direction. Remember, Mali, he opened the seaport to allow Mali to get materials to the port of Conakry. He did not honor the ECOWAS sanction at the time. And so that was a problem. So he broke the sanction. He did not allow ECOWAS to enforce the sanction through Guinea.
Thank you. And if you are watching and want to join the conversation, 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. Emmanuel Jackson, Emmanuel is saying that Sekou Touré is from Masanta. So I'm asking Emmanuel if he's sure about that. It doesn't look like Masanta to me.
Sekou Touré is not from Masanta. Sekou Touré is from a place called Farana in Upper Guinea. He's a Madigo or Madigo. Correct. So Sekou Touré's wife is from Masanta. His wife, Andre Touré, mom is from Masanta. She was born of a mixed French father, French mother, from the Loma ethnic group of Masanta. So that's where his wife is from. Sekou Touré himself is not.
He's from Farana, yeah. So if you want to take part, 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. We always want to draw the parallel with Liberia. What can we learn from this election in Guinea? Guinea has Liberians. Jimmy, is Liberia paying attention?
That's a good question. I hear about the ethnic divides in a neighboring country. We were talking about how tribal divides affect the politics in Ivory Coast. Now we also mentioned how it also may affect the politics in Guinea. But I think it noticeably, I don't think our ethnicity has really driven a rift between us, except during the time of Doe, who forcibly wanted to hold on to power and declared war on one whole set of our people. So I think what we can learn from this is that if you open your country up, if the people can see their livelihood improving, you will be popular. Okay, and also we, I think we know very well that these extractive industries are not enough. We know that, so we can our past experience dictates that to us. We stand to lose. The whole country stands to lose. And so politics is never an end to anything. We think that politics will resolve our problems, but it's not politics that will resolve it. It's our economics. What do we put in place to improve our lot? What institutions we build that will mold the leaders of tomorrow, that will mold the technicians of tomorrow, that will mold the technocrats and the workers of tomorrow. That is what we will leave in place to perpetuate what we believe in. But if we're not doing that, if we're not putting in place something that will continue and continue to build from generation to generation, if we're not putting that in place, we're doing nothing. So if Guinea gets a hold of this and starts doing these very same things, okay, we've seen their discipline from Sekou Touré. Like Mohammed mentioned, they're not concerned about tribe is not a big thing. It's all more about the ideal, what you believe in. Okay, so your ideology is what's important, and that hopefully that will determine where they go. Likewise, us, we need to develop that ideology that will unite us and define our trajectory. Up to now, we just ad hoc until we define an ideology that we can espouse, believe in, and sell to our people like all of them believe in, know that they have a hope. We are not going to be able to do anything. So I think that's what we can glean from this episode in Guinea.
And something I wanted to add, Dennis, to that is, when you talk about, the ideology of, some of our African, leaders, post-independence. So if you look at Sekou Touré, after the overthrow of Kwame Nkrumah in 1966, he was in Beijing when this happened, when the coup leaders took over. So, Kwame Nkrumah, was very disappointed. He denounced the coup. And, so Sekou Touré said to him, come home. Come home, your home, your next home is Guinea. So Nkrumah came to Guinea, and Nkrumah was declared as the co-president. So Sekou Touré allowed Nkrumah to serve as a president of Guinea. He said, you are from Ghana, you're also from Guinea. We are the same country. We don't honor colonial boundaries. We don't have all of these divisions. So there were people like Maria Makeba, Stokely Carmichael, individuals like that who went to Guinea and settled, and they were Guinean citizens. In fact, Maria Makeba became, Guinea's ambassador. Maria Makeba is from South Africa, but Sekou Touré appointed her as Guinea's ambassador to the United Nations. And Stokely Carmichael, had a very important, he was advisor to Sekou Touré and Guinea. So these guys didn't care about, where you come from. People like Nkrumah, people like, Sekou Touré. In fact, what Sekou Touré wanted to do was, he wanted to take Kwame Nkrumah back to Ghana by force of arm to remove, the military junta. Ofu Boigny, Ofu Boigny was the only stumbling block because the Guinean, warplanes couldn't cross the Ivorian airspace to go into Accra and depose the military junta. And that was the crisis between Sekou Toure and Sekou Toure and Houphouët-Boigny. It was President Tolbert who mediated the crisis between Houphouët-Boigny and Sekou Toure. It was also President Tolbert who mediated the crisis between Sekou Toure and Léopold Sédar Senghor of Senegal. So Tolbert was very respected by these guys, even though he was a moderate. But he was a moderate who, in terms of speaking the truth, in terms of talking to his brothers, they respected him very much. So these guys, their ideology was they weren't confined to just this little segment. So it will be interesting to see the new leaders after them. People like Doumbouya. We don't know what their ideologies are in terms of perpetuating this kind of pan-African vision.
Thank you. You think, Jimmy? You think President Bouakai was standing in the election? we have a caller there, so go ahead, Jimmy. While we bring the caller in.
Okay, so you said you think President Bouakai will do what?
Will run 2029.
Okay, but I'm gonna go by what he says. That's not what his focus is right now. I think we went
by what Doumbouya said first.
What I want to see is, this man is a man of advanced age, and I think he's taking it day by day. Okay, if he feels up to the task, come 2029, if he feels up to the task, then he will run. But if he finds that it's time for him to turn it over to someone else, then he will do it. I don't think it's written in stone what he will do. And I think it's partly because he is a man of advanced age and there's a lot going on. I think there's a lot of pressure in being president. There's a lot of demands on the body. And also, what is more important, do you have the vision? Do you understand the technology of today, how to employ that technology to bring your country to where it's supposed to be? Because that's the only way we're going to modernize Liberia. We have to digitize the economy. We're still doing sneaker net. Most of our transactions are still all hand to hand. We're so far behind. And do you need someone who understands how to make this transition? Let me just explain it like this. We've been worried about electricity, if you notice, right? There was light going all the time. Rainy season or dry season, they cut the light. And to me, this is dear to my heart because that is exactly what I was doing. We control that. We what they call load balancing and power distribution. That was my principal job.
Now you used to cut our line.
I was the guy. I was the guy. I had a list.
Okay. Jimmy, let me tell you before I bring in Emmanuel Jackson is on the line. Let me tell you how Sam Wallow, your buddy, Dr. Sam Wallow, is answering the question about whether Liberia is paying attention. He said, yes, Dennis, Liberia is paying attention. And listen to the example that he gave. The president just said last week that Liberia is now considered a peace broker and regional conflict resolution nation. Thus, the establishment of the Regional Crisis Resolution Center in Foya. President said leaders from Guinea and Sierra Leone can drive to Foya for conflict resolution discussions, and the Ivorian leader can be airlifted. President Bouakai expressly called the Guinean election as an election to watch. Here is the 5-minute video. He always wanted you out to show a video. But let me bring in Emmanuel, who is on the line. Mr. Jackson, you're alive.
Good evening and Happy New Year. I want to thank you personally, Dennis, for doing this great work and bringing focus on Liberia to reality. And through the years, you have done a tremendous job to help us, come together and discuss issues concerning our country. Now, the whole thing about what's happening in the region of West Africa, also Africa as a whole. From my perspective, what I've seen when I came here in 1982 to go to school in Tennessee, I noticed I used to play soccer with the guys from Singapore, from Malaysia, and Libya. And all those guys from those countries were studying nothing but engineering, you know. And that's how Malaysia and Singapore were able to develop it.
And we were studying accounting.
Yeah. So the biggest challenge, as I said, for West Africa, for the politics has been there forever. We need to find a way to send our young people to study all the sciences that pertains to the wealth we have in the ground. If we can achieve that, if we can at least have about 50 engineers in metallurgical, in chemical, in civil, and in electrical engineers before we open mines in West Africa and in other parts of Africa, then we'll be able to control the narratives of the politics. Because that way we have our people of having the knowledge on what we have in the ground and what we have in the mountains and whatever. But if we do not achieve those things that are necessary to build an economy, we're not going to succeed. You know, Mamadi would be there, somebody would come and move in because it will always be about the economics. Yeah. You know, are you producing jobs for your people? Are you building an economy that is industrial? You know, so this is my concern from me. As I said, as I came in this country, I was playing soccer with these guys. The only people I saw from Africa that were very in a higher learning of engineering was the Ghanaian. There was a guy at Tennessee University called Kwaku who used to play on the same team. So, you know, I noticed that through the years. I said, there's no way we're going to achieve what we want to achieve as a people, independent and sovereign, if we do not put our people in the right educational systems that will help us to understand what we have that we can develop. If you look at now in the United States, most of the steel and rubber industry is flourishing. It's because of what they extracted from Liberia. Just the other day, I was getting a guy to cater me, and we discussed, and the guy didn't even know that, you know, Liberia was exporting tremendous amount of iron ore over here in Boston to manufacture shit. And he told me his mother worked for that company. So you see, I mean, we've been exploited. Yeah. And that's why I always make that point. The problem is we must find a way to help our young people to come, because I was a teacher before I came here, and I saw the potential of the people when I taught in Bombay Hills and in Cape Mount. You have people there who could be doctors and lawyers because they're good in math and science. And we're just wasting time running behind this politics and stuff and denying these young people this kind of education that will help us to develop our economy. It's always about the economy. It's never going to be about just politics. If you're not ready, just yesterday or day before, or 10 days before I go, a lot of people drown in the sea again. I think coming from Gambia trying to cross or go to Europe. We have to do something about this. Put our money, put people in school, put them in higher institutional learning. The people in Liberia, they can do it in all those counties. But we continue to divert ourselves to just politics and talk, and time is going, and all our natural resources going somewhere else, and the people are manufacturing them and creating higher economy in their society.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Just curious, man. What position you play when you were on the team?
I play for a church team. I used to go to a church called Calvary Baptist.
No, I said the position the position on the team.
So I used to play on that team.
Your position, which wing you play?
Oh, I play seven, and sometimes I play fullback.
Oh, okay.
I play number 7 fullback. Even in Liberia, I used to play 7. I wasn't a professional player, but I played soccer just on the local level. Just, you know, I used to play to a fee called Paul Wilson Fee. I think Open played behind or Johannesburg rocked up. Then we used to play soccer.
Thank you. Number 7, that's my wing. So, you know, like, so I know what you're talking about. We'll take a break and be right back.
That was very nice. So what I was alluding to before we had the caller, I want to show you. It's so we had a problem, right? Lego.
Mhm.
Everyday Lego, Renaissance and Lego. So what we used to call it, it's more than Christmas light because it would be on one 15-minute ago. Since they appointed this new fella at LEC, the managing director, we have had much more stable light. Same situation, same everything. What is the difference? Do you see that guy was part of the CLSG entity? He knows how to tap off it. This thing is something we Liberia. We were part of the brainchild of that whole thing. But after the war, we didn't develop our facilities to meet the demand that the CLSG was going to require. So when they appointed him, he knows what to do. He knows where to tap. He knows how to blend in. He knows how to integrate the system so that it will benefit from it. So now we have more stable electricity. This can be propagated in several industries. If you put the people who actually know how to integrate these systems, because a lot of it is not just about building, but knowing what works for your system, given what you have, and how you can best employ new technology to benefit it. So until you get those people involved that actually know how to integrate technology with our existing situation, it's not going to work. If this is telecom, we will have a much better telecommunication network. We will have a much of digital, or the banking systems will be different. It will affect every part of our, existence. But you just got to put the people who know better in the right position. That's all we need.
Right. And talking about people in the right position, I'm still interested in being superintendent. And so if you are listening of Sino County, and at the same time, I'm going to offer free classes, free. I will teach for free at Sino High, all subjects.
Right.
Let's look ahead. Let's say if Dumuya wins decisively, what does the next 7 years look like for Guinea? What indicators should the international community watch to assess whether transition leads to genuine democratic consolidation? What should we be looking at?
A massive win, which it looks like it's going to be, will be interpreted as a mandate for doing what he's doing now. And so it worries.
But they are questioning the credibility because of, so will a massive win actually determine that he has a mandate?
Right. So that's going to be sold to the international community as a mandate from the Guinean people, regardless of the method that was used. If it's 90%, which, everybody's looking for 90% now, it's going to be sold as a popular mandate. And what will worry activists and the human rights community is that those kinds of mandates can then be interpreted to say, I'm going to continue to do the same thing that I'm doing now. This is why the people want me to continue to go ahead and do these things. My thing then is, it has to be, there has to be some sort of caution with how you treat how you treat the opposition. Acts of disappearances have to, there has to be curtailed. There has to be more press freedom, more transparency in the democratic process. There has to be real investigation of opposition leaders who are in exile now, but this has to be done with the fairness that it requires. So there's a lot more to be done. Election, we sometimes look at election. Election is not the conduct, holding elections is not, democracy, that's not the only thing in a democracy. Democracy is a process. It's a whole big process. You can hold election now. That doesn't, fulfill democratic process. It's just part of the process. So a lot of countries are just, a lot of presidents, a lot of leaders now, like Kagame and Biya and others, they're just crossing this off of their calendar, on their calendar. Once that time comes, they hold a token election. They know they're going to steal the election. They will steal the election like Biya did, last time. They cross that off their calendar. And they can then sell that to the international community. Say, look, to the World Bank and all these other people, and say, look, we just held our election. You want us to hold election, but here is it right now. This is the result. Never mind that those elections are stolen. So what I'm saying here is that just because elections are held, it's not a fulfillment of all of the requirements of the democratic process. So there's more to it. Where is the freedom of the press, the freedom for the opposition to organize, to protest, to make sure that they're putting forth their grievances? Where is, for example, freedom of everything else, right? Where is the transparency? So those things, come with the democratic process. And I hope that, in the next 7 years that, Doumbouya practices, real democracy. My concern is, why move the presidential term from 5 to 7 years? And so, but again, as my people would say, you can't blame the place you fall, and you have to look back at where you stump your foot. Mm-hmm. Alpha Condé started this thing. He started changing the Constitution. He wanted to be the Nelson Mandela of Africa, and he miserably, because of greed and with the connivance, some say, of some Western powers, he tried to overstay, and he did a third term, which brought us to this point. If he hadn't gone for a third term, maybe you don't have a military coup. Maybe you don't have the intervention of the military. Maybe you have now Guinea as, the beacon of democracy in the region.
Thank you. And I want us to collectively hold Sam Wallo accountable. He's saying the free classes at Sino High as inducement. So he said this should be, he said Superintendent Jai is not on the job yet. He's already offering inducements to the people of Sino. We should be concerned. Jimmy, what should we look for? The only person who is fighting my job is Sam. But this Wednesday, we're going to come to you with our year-end review. We're going to look at 2025 and what next. So join me. I'll be the host to host 2025 and what next, and the FOL year-end review. You don't want to miss it. As on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Jimmy, let's say Mr. Doumbouya wins decisively. What do we expect? What next?
Well, then now it's time to actually govern. And this is who we're alluding to. We get so involved with the politics, getting power, ingratiating yourself. Okay, so now you got the power. Now it's time to govern. Politics and governing are not the same thing, because governing actually is now you're doing it's operations. You're making the things, the activities in the country go on in a synchronized way to bring about benefits for the people, to live there, to raise their standard of living, to provide health care for them, to provide education for them, to provide business opportunities. So now you're talking about steering the activities in the country so that it will provide livelihood for the people. This is where the governing actually comes. We have seen people who want to govern. I shouldn't even say they want to govern. They want to rule. They want to be president, but they don't know how to govern. But they want to be president. They want to be the ruler. And so when we get one of these, it's just like the man said he wanted to lead you, but the man is blind. He doesn't know how to lead you. He's blind. He can't see. If there's a big hole in the ground in front of him, he can't see it. But he said he wants to lead. And when you elect him to lead, you following a blind man. And so this is what goes on. Do we see people that who has the vision and the ingenuity to put his vision in place, to bring about fundamental changes? Because there has to be some fundamental changes first, so we have a proper foundation to build on, to build these institutions on. So do we know someone who is ready to make those fundamental changes and adjustments and corrections so that we have a good base to start building on? And how will we determine that is by listening to what they say. Are they preoccupied with building the foundation, the fundamental things we need to put in place? Or are they just giving us the regular, I will improve healthcare, I will improve education, I will build roads? That is not, believe it or not, that is not a strategy. You have to find how you will build the institution that will sustain themselves when you leave. Not just I will build roads out, because you can build out one hospital, if nobody takes care of it, it runs down tomorrow. You can build out one road, if it's not maintained, it goes bad tomorrow. No, you need to build a system that will make sure those roads, those hospitals, those schools, those everything continually get the attention they deserve. That's the kind of fundamental building we need. So let's keep looking out for that person who will come around, not somebody who they'll tell you, I will build a skyscraper and that will not do you no good.
Thank you. Thank you. As we wind down, also want come Wednesday during our year-end review, we're going to be assessing the government using a scorecard. I know the writing is small, so you wouldn't see it, but what this is we have the pillars of the government, and then we have the indicator, and based on that, we're going to score it from 0 to 5. For example, the public financial management, the indicator will be 1, budget credibility, payroll integrity, revenue performance, fiscal reporting timelines, right? Debt and arrears management. We're going to use that to grade on pillar 1. Pillar 2, which is the integrity and anti-corruption. We're going to use procurement transparency, single source control, asset declaration compliance, enforcement of sanction as the indicator. For rule of law and human rights, we're going to use judicial independence, pre-trial detention, police accountability, press freedom, land dispute handling. Those will be our indicators. For security and social cohesion, public order management, crime and safety, border or coastal security, conflict early warning, those will be our indicators. For service delivery, we'll use our primary healthcare, maternal and child health, education equality, wash access, that's the water sanitation stuff, and then rural equity. For the economy and livelihoods, we're going to use inflation management, price stability, jobs, investment governance, and so on and so forth. So we have this stuff. We're not just blindly grading government. We're going to grade the government based on what they told us they were going to do,
Right.
not what they're doing or what they're supposed to be doing. All right, let's wrap it up. Jimmy and then Muhammad will close.
Okay, so we happen to see that the elections in Guinea were peaceful. We're slightly disappointed knowing that some of the opposition, the formidable opposition, were not given chance to contest. But we still see the possibility of a positive direction from Guinea. We need to look keenly because it is a like Guinea's and our destiny may be tied together. We both are depending on extractive industries, and we both realize now that we need to have some value added activities in order to capitalize on the resources we have. So hopefully we can come up with a joint plan that will introduce factories or other value added activities to the extractive industries so that we can see greater economic activities throughout the country. You know, when one industry gives rise to another. So when you get one industry going, that will have a domino effect on several other industries, both vertically and laterally. So it's a good thing. And I want to see more cooperation with Guinea. And I want to see that ECOWAS becomes more current on the politics of today. I think they are still in a zone that we've passed. They have to adapt to the current affairs of Africa today, West Africa especially. And I think that's what I would like to see.
Thank you, Mohammed. Your conclusion and what are we looking forward to in the next round of Roundtable Africa?
The next round is we're looking at Mauritius. So we'll be looking at Mauritius next. We've looked at we look at bad democracies, you know, what I call democracies in name only. We look at Tanzania, Cameroon, and Cote d'Ivoire. The leaders in those countries have used excessive force, have used trickeries and deceit to perpetuate their rule. We contrast that with democracies in some other countries, you know, Cape Verde, for example, that we looked at last week. So Cape Verde is an example of a successful democracy on the continent of Africa, not just the continent of Africa, forget Africa, in the world, you know, around the world. So Cape Verde is successful. Cape Verde is an example of a stable and a working democracy, an efficient democracy. Next, we're going to look at Mauritius, another democracy. It's an island nation. So it looks like, you know, people on these islands, you know, because they're detached from the mainland, you know, they live, you know, peacefully, and you know, they seem to be stable. But this doesn't hold everywhere. So when you look at Comoros, for example, there has been, you know, historically some instability in the Comoros. Comoros is not economically strong. So, you know, it doesn't hold everywhere. When you come on the mainland, you're looking at Botswana, one of the most successful democracies, peaceful democracy in Africa. So we will be looking at Botswana after Mauritius. So our series is going to go around Africa. Our goal is to, you know, here on Focus on Africa, our goal is to teach, you know, to educate, you know, not just to entertain, but to and inform, but to also educate, you know. So Focus on Africa is very unique in that sense. You know, so we have, you know, there are a lot of people that have the capacity, the intellectual capacity and different capacities to be able to do these things for you for free. So why not? Why not join us? And I mean, we're doing this for free. This is, like, Dennis, like, you go to a master class, you pay for masters, you pay for master seminar. People pay for master seminar, but we don't charge nobody, right? We don't charge people to come to these seminars, right? Maybe we need to be charging some money. So, we have people with a bona fides to, be able to discuss, issues, whatever issue it is. You talk about finance, Gilbert and others, you talk about, all the different things. So we have people in different sectors, okay, that can discuss these issues for free, bring you issues for free. And so for us here at Roundtable Africa, on a weekly basis, we are looking at Africa. Not just African democracies, but we will also be looking at other issues on the continent. So join us weekly as we bring this to your doorstep. Tonight we brought Guinea because this event in Guinea, the election, which is a historic event, happened yesterday. We should have brought it to you yesterday, but I had some issues, family issues, and so I wasn't available. And so, so today we've brought you this, and, we're going to continue to do what we're doing now. So thank you for joining us, and we appreciate you for everything, for your support and all.
1 minute quickly, Dennis. Something has occurred the other day. We find that America has introduced what they call the first global strategy, health strategy. Okay. And they've gotten countries like Nigeria, Rwanda, Uganda, Eswatini, Kenya, Liberia, Mozambique, all of these countries to sign. Only Botswana. What are they trying? I think this requires a careful examination. What are they hoping? And Lesotho is the other team, the other country. What is it beneficial to us? Why are they paying millions of dollars to allow us to give them access to our health data? Why? I think we need to strategically delve into it. As you know, nothing for nothing, nothing is free. So we need to look into why. Why are they introducing this thing? And we already have 8 countries who have accepted this. Is it the right decision? I think we need to explore it in detail.
Thank
Take
you.
it all apart.
In detail, that's why we are here to educate, to elevate, and promote all things. And if you find these programs very useful, you can be a sponsor. Say a sponsor of Roundtable Africa, or a sponsor of A New Day, or the sponsor of the Business and Economic Forum, that's the FOL Marketplace, or the History Channel, so that we can continue to grow and blossom. Right now, or if you watch, our YouTube, if you go visit our YouTube channel, we are using some of the tools available, like artificial intelligence, to bring you a lot of content that you cannot find anywhere in the world. I mean, since the foundation of Liberia, you don't see this anywhere. And so we encourage you to keep tuned, focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Until then, we're going to close with our song that says, "We are all Liberia." Have a good night, and God bless.
Thank you.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our home. Liberia people. USA all we want. Liberia, USA all we want. Liberia, Liberia.